We'll now,
Okay.
we'll now move on to the next presentation, which is by Dr. Joy Tripovich. Now, this is going to be a little bit peculiar because unfortunately, uh, Joy has had some illness. She's with us today, but she's had a little bit of illness that makes her prone to coughing. So by pre-arrangement, Joy has pre-recorded her presentation, but she is available, subject to how she's feeling, to answer questions at the end of the presentation. So to get things going, I might just to give you some opening words about Dr. Joy. She's a behavioural ecologist working in the Conservation Behaviour Lab at the Taronga Conservation Society, Australia. Joy completed her PhD from the University of Sydney and science degree from the University of New South Wales. She has over 2 decades of behavioural ecology research experience working with a broad array of marine and terrestrial species. She has worked at the Taronga Conservation Society in several different roles over her career, and most recently joined the team again in 2018 to lead the review of the Regent Honeyeater conservation breeding program, which she's going to talk about today. So if you can bear with me, like Ian, I'm a relative novice at sharing online, but I hope to be able to share this presentation video for you.
Let me paint a picture, and imagine this if you will. It is the 1900s and you're in a woodland forest off the east coast of Australia. The bush is full of eucalyptus trees in blossom, and there is a faint smell of eucalyptus in the air. The forest is buzzing with life and energy, and you look up to the sky and you see these immense flocks of these beautiful Australian songbirds zipping in groups from tree to tree, feeding on nectar. Males are singing to females, trying to impress them with their melodic tunes in the hopes of pairing and breeding with the female. Life is busy here, and you take this all in. Flash forward to today, and half of the trees you once saw have now been removed. There is now a quietness in the air. The Regent Honeyeater is now nowhere to be seen. It is now on the edge of extinction with less than 250 birds left in the wild. Habitat loss has pushed the remaining birds into little pockets across their once vast ranges. Latest research shows that this species is on a rapid trajectory towards extinction unless we urgently enhance our conservation efforts. Today, I'd like to share with you our developments and challenges that we face in the conservation breeding program, helping the critically endangered Regent Honeyeater. Now, the species recovery program commenced in the mid-1990s with the collection of 9 nestlings from the wild, and since then the program has released over 400 birds to New South Wales and Victoria. Data-driven, evidence-based research is deeply embedded in all aspects of the Regent Honeyeater Breed for Release program. We work within an adaptive management framework, and this is crucial as it enables us to implement management actions based on what we learn. Our overall objective of the program is to develop conservation actions to help the wild population to become self-sustaining. So we work in a number of ways to optimise the fitness of the birds in the zoo Breed for Release program. The first of which is the evaluation of our zoo practices and fitness parameters of the birds that promote better post-release breeding success and survival times. And so we do this because we want to optimise the way we work so that we can release fitter birds to the wild from the zoo Breed for Release program. We have now undertaken the review twice, and now you can see from this slide, we have 7 key actions that have been implemented as a result of those evaluations. To highlight some of the actions, we focus on song tutoring to promote the wild song in our zoo-bred birds, as well as enabling time in multi-species free flight aviaries to provide birds with time to develop their flight muscles as well as competition skills. And so, as I mentioned earlier, we've undertaken a song tutoring program at the zoo, and this is because the zoo-bred birds did not sound like wild birds. In the wild, the birds would learn how to sing from the social interactions they would have with other Regent Honeyeaters. Sorry. As an example, a wild father would drive his young away from a nest, vocalizing at them so that a second nesting could occur. So these birds would learn how to sing through these experiences and learn how to sing through the vocalizations and the behaviors associated with these calls. And so this wasn't happening in the zoo setting, so we set out to see if we could correct this by teaching the young males how to sing. Additionally, singing in Regent Honeyeaters is thought to function in courtship, feeding, social cohesion, and geographic dialects have existed in the species, especially when it was more widespread. Research has shown that if you are a male that does not sing the culturally normed song, then you are at a disadvantage for your breeding outcomes. So having the birds sing the correct song is vital for repopulating the species. So we were fortunate enough to have a PhD student, Daniel Appleby, working on this project, which ran for several years. And here we trialled a number of different methods to teach the birds how to sing. This included playing out the wild Regent honey calls through speakers, and the songs were played from dawn till dusk. And in another method we looked at, we had wild birds that were brought in for the breeding program, and they sat adjacent to the juvenile birds till the end of the breeding season. After which point, at the end of that breeding season, the wild birds were actually placed into the aviaries with the young juveniles, so they had direct contact with those wild birds. So after a series of adjustments to the program, which included the reduction of pupils to student ratios and the enhancement of the playbacks, we had a major breakthrough. And for the first time, we heard zoo birds singing like wild birds, which was quite a treat. The method that had the best results was the live tutoring and the playbacks. And so we were able to rapidly spread the wild song culture through the zoo population and have drastically increased the number of tutors in the zoo. The red line is where we are now, and this has given us the capacity to tutor nearly every single bird born in the 2 Taronga zoos. And this breakthrough comes at a very timely point when the wild birds are calling in a more simplified manner, which is now hypothesized to be related to their low numbers and the cultural breakdown that is happening. So being able to release birds that sound like wild birds is certainly important in our attempts to preserve the call, now also in the wild because of our efforts in the zoo setting. We also have a new PhD student, Billy Bray, who will investigate the impacts of the song tutoring on the birds once they are released into the wild to see if we are able to assess the impact of these activities and see if song tutored birds have better outcomes. Another area we focus on is the use of population models to predict what will happen in the wild population of Regent honeyeaters into the future. Now, this study was led by our colleagues at ANU and was done in collaboration with our team, and this study revealed that current already intensive conservation efforts are not sufficient to save the Regent honeyeater from extinction. 3 key conservation priorities have been identified. The first model showed that nest success rates of both wild and released zoo-bred birds must nearly double, and this also requires protecting nests from predation. The second is the number of zoo-bred birds released into the Blue Mountains must increase to double and be sustained for at least 20 years alongside nest protection. And the last one stresses that Regent honeyeater populations can only be secured into the future if more habitat can be protected and restored. So basically, this study shows us both hope, but also quite a serious warning that we can save these birds, but it really does take a lot of effort and resources that will be required to help pull it off. So now moving on to our research on nest protection. One of the main ways Regent honeyeaters can increase their numbers in the wild is by recruiting more juveniles to the population. And if a Regent honeyeater can successfully fledge its young, then the species can continue to grow. However, Regent honeyeaters are heavily predated upon by mammalian and avian predators, such as the squirrel glider and sugar glider, as well as possums and other birds such as magpies and kookaburras. Current nest success for Regent honeyeaters is about 1 fledgling per nest. And Regent honeyeaters typically produce 2 to 3 nests, 2 to 3 eggs per nest. Now, to arrest decline, we really need to increase that to an average of about 1.5 to 2 fledglings per nest. So our team has been looking at innovative, non-lethal measures to control predators near the nest. Now, we've just wrapped up an honours study that was conducted at a number of zoos across New South Wales, where we looked at ultrasonic deterrence to see if they could temporarily displace gliders away from Regent honeyeater nests. Now, this technology was chosen because it seemed like a good one to use because the birds can't hear ultrasonic signals, and so it won't disturb them. But the gliders do produce calls in the ultrasonic region, so it's likely to impact. Okay, so what we did here is we've got a sugar glider nest box, and at the top of that we've got a false lid, and we had the ultrasonic signal being emitted. And what we found was that there was an increase in disturbance to the gliders once the ultrasonic signals were on, and this was especially prevalent in terms of the entries and exits to the nest box when the ultrasonic signal was on. So now we have this proof of concept. We are rolling this technique out into the field to see if we can help nesting birds nesting in the wild to recruit more juveniles to the population. And we have another student, PhD student, undertaking this from UNSW, Lauren Suffling. So we look forward to sharing the research with you soon. And to wrap up, we acknowledge that there's a lot more work to be done in this space, and time really is of the essence for this species if we are going to help this species thrive in the wild. We do have some positive news in that some of our nest protection measures look like they are potentially making a difference, and we wait patiently to see if these translate to population changes. And with respect to the science, our most important conservation effort we can do now for the species is to recruit more juveniles to the population and continue to inject more high quality birds into the wild from the breeding program. I would like to thank the following people and organisations for their help with this large conservation project. It certainly takes an army to breed and release and protect these precious Regent honeyeaters, so I am deeply grateful to everyone who has helped with this program. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Joy. Look, I know it's it was a little hard of hearing, but
Oh, was it? Sorry.
I think it's fair to say that we really appreciate your efforts in putting this together, despite the way you've been feeling. I feel so
Sorry,
sorry
I
for you,
know
Joy.
my voice is just a bit weird. Sorry, I couldn't have done it live.
But I think it could be heard at a low level, and of course the visuals made it very easy to follow what you were saying.
Ah, that's a shame. Sorry.
There was a question on my mind. As you know, our branch is very involved with the Regent Honeyeater in the Kapiti Valley in particular, where we have our planting program. And we're also very keenly interested in what Taronga Zoo is doing with the breeding program. It's a depressing scenario because we know that even putting plants in the ground to try and restore habitat, it's a decades-long process. And as you illustrate in your presentation, it's a desperate race to try and bring up the population. I'm interested to know, it's clear enough about what the directions of the breeding program will be taken, and also planting food stock, breeding habitat makes sense. But the idea of protecting nests through acoustic devices, I'd be interested to know a little bit more about, well, supposing this technology is proven to work, how might it actually be used in practice? Do we have to find the nests first in order to protect them? What are your views on that?
Yes, absolutely. I think that the idea for the nest protection research using the acoustic deterrents is meant to be temporary. So it would have to be once you find a nest that you would implement the ultrasonic deterrents. And it's meant to just be a buffer around a tree where the nest is. So we're not trying to hurt. We're very mindful of the the risks and the harms that, you know what I mean, like the benefits versus the harms that this technology might instill, because it may, you know, do need to be mindful of gliders that might be pushed out of their range a little bit and what that impact may have. So we just want it to be around a nest, and it will only be temporary. And the idea is that it's motion triggered as well, so to minimize any habituation as well. And we'll be playing around with the signals as well. So we've got a very multi-stage approach that we'll be doing soon with this new PhD student. So, you know, we'll be looking at developing the appropriate signals, then testing it with noisy miners or a model species, such as noisy miners to begin with, and then rolling it out to Regent honeyeaters. Again, we're just very careful. It's a very critically endangered species, so we're very careful in how we plan to integrate this technique if it works.
Mm. There's an obvious premium on our capacity to find the nests to begin with, I guess.
There is, and that's why we're also working with, like we put an emphasis on trying to investigate transmitters as well. So we're working with BirdLife to try and test new technologies with the zoo birds as well, because obviously, satellite transmitters will probably be your gold standard, but at this point they're too heavy. But ultimately, a part of our problem is that we don't know where the birds go because we can't detect them. So being able to do that as well, I think will be a major advantage for us.
Thank you, Joy. Are there other questions that others would like to ask? I've tended to hog the attention. Please speak up if you want to ask a question. Okay, then. Well, we are on time. Thank you so much, Joy. It's been great. And I hope there's an opportunity for us to catch up with you again, possibly in the Kapiti Valley in the months ahead. We'll see about that.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for having me. And sorry I couldn't do it live.
That's okay. We wish you a swift recovery. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.